restore such a one in the spirit of meekness, considering thyself, lest thou also be tempted. Bear ye one another's burdens, and so fulfill the law of Christ. For if a man thinketh himself to be something, when he is nothing, he deceiveth himself. Over in Psalm 139, verse 23, it says, Search me, O God, and know my heart. Try me and know my thoughts. Thank you for standing for the reading of the Word. I've got just very elementary thoughts this evening, but most of you know me, and I guess if you've got an elementary mind, you end up with elementary thoughts, Brother Jonathan. But as I begin to think about this, and here in Psalm, he said, Search me, O God, and know my heart. Try me and know my thoughts. And I thought most of us, especially these newer automobiles, if you're driving one of them, and some of them talk to you nowadays, but there's a light in most of these automobiles, and it all depends on the make. Some of them says check engine soon, and my particular one says service engine soon. And I thought, when that light comes on, it's not a pleasant sight, Brother Steve. A lot of times it can be something as simple as you filled your car up and left your gas cap off. But most of the time, in my experience, it's been something a little more difficult than that. And I thought, you said, where in the world are you going with this? But I began to think about that. Service engine soon. And then I thought about, search me, O God, and know my heart. Try me and know my thoughts. And if I could title this tonight, I just simply title it, Service Engine Soon. I began to think about that, and I thought I've had a reason to think about it this week. Because at the blue truck I bought, or SUV, when I bought it, I found it online, had Brother Steve go look at it, and I'm still not disappointed that I bought it. I feel like I got a pretty good deal. But he brought it to his house, and I went up there that weekend and got it. When I got in it, the service engine soon light was on. And the guy had done a bunch of work, and I figured it was just a hard code that he didn't get cleared. And drove it back home, noticed a little miss in it. And I've been driving it for some time now and done several things trying to eliminate that miss. But it would keep coming back. Took it last week to get the OBD codes read, and they read them, and I put a couple sensors on the car and got the lights all turned out, and everything seemed to be good. Yesterday morning, Sister Kathy and I got in it. We drove it again, and the same symptoms came back again. The check engine light came on, and I took it back to O'Reilly's, had the boy to hook it up to his computer, and he came back and he said, well, this time it's showing a code that is pretty generic, and it can mean a lot of different things. He said, but my experience with this particular vehicle is you're going to have to dig for the problem. And he said, most of the time it's your intake gaskets. And so I just went ahead and bought a set of intake gaskets and went to the house, Brother Ricky, because I figured I was going to have to replace an intake gasket. I don't want to bore you tonight. But I thought I began to dig into that because I knew that the problem, and I thought I could change the spark plugs, I could change the wires. I bought a $30 bottle of stuff that said it was guaranteed to fix the problem, but the problem reoccurred. I thought we hooked that little old camper, which ain't very heavy, and headed off down to Boonesboro a couple of weeks ago, and it cranked up there at about 212 degrees, and I knew that there was a problem, but I wanted to override the problem. I wanted to try to eliminate the problem without having to go through all the pain and suffering that it took to fix the problem. And I began to think about that on the spiritual side yesterday. As I was had the hood raised and the sun beating down on my back, and as I began to tear into it, and I got down to the intake gaskets, and I lifted that intake on off there, and I looked back at Sister Kathy. She was sitting there. I pulled the awning out on the camper. She was sitting there reading while I was working, and I looked at her and I said, well, I've made it to the problem that I thought I had, but that's not the problem. Brand new set of intake gaskets. And I said, I think that I need to go ahead and pull the heads off of it, but I hate to so bad. I sat there and I tried to talk myself out of it. I tried to think, well, the problem could be somewhere else. And I seen my father-in-law drive by, and I said, call your dad, tell him to come back here a minute. And he came back and he looked and he said, that ain't the problem. I believe you're going to have to take the heads on off of it. And I tore down and I went ahead and I took it probably another hour and a half or so, and I got the heads off. And when I lifted the first one up, I knew right then that I had found my problem. When the whole corner of the head gasket was gone, and the stuff that I put in there, I could see it all throughout the bottom of the head where it seeped through there and slowed down the problem, but I never fixed the problem. And I began to think about how many times do we as Christians, do we come upon a problem in our life, Brother Raymond, and although we know that we're going to have to dig, that we know we're going to eliminate the things, but we just keep trying to doctor it along. I thought, some of these guys I work with, and some of you know, I thought I've fooled with old cars as, before I even started driving. Brother Sparks had something, if it was simple enough that I could fix, I almost time fixed it for him. When I was 12, 13-year-old, I just liked automobiles. But I thought those older ones, you get in there, and if you had a set of points, and you set the points, they were simple to work on, Brother Jim. And I always thought, well, I never want to work on these newer ones. But I thought I found out that when you've got a scanner, and you can run a code, then the car will pretty much tell you what the problem is. And I thought, and I found it not to be, there's a lot more there, and there's a lot more to deal with, and you're going to tear your hands up a lot more with all those sensors and all those wires and all those things. But I thought the problem is easier to eliminate whenever you can go to something and it can tell you where your problem is. And I thought, when I found out that whenever I talk to the Lord, I thought, Brother Bill, I don't have to dig real hard to find my problem. I thought He will reveal our problems and our situations to us. And I thought the psalmist said, search me, O God, know my heart, try me, know my thoughts. And I thought, what He is saying here, God, tear me down and rebuild me again. Lord, you know where my problem is, land, and you can fix the source and remedy the problem. I thought I could have went back to Walmart or AutoZone, and I could have went back there and I could have bought another bottle of that, I think it was Barr's head gasket repair, and I could have poured it in there and I could have drove it for another while before it started the problem again. Never did get water in my oil. I kept pulling out, there ain't no water there. But when you walk by, you can smell that sweet savor coming out of that tailpipe. The gas don't burn. And I knew that I had a problem, but I just didn't want to dig into the problem. And so many times we look around and we know the things that's hindering us from getting to where we need to be with God, but we just don't want to mess with it. Right? It's too sensitive. And I thought, no, I've tore down a few of the older ones. And as I began to take those valve lifters loose, and I began to pull those push rods out of there, Brother Jim. The last time I done that, I had one with those, I don't even know what that's called, solid lifters, and you just torque the rocker arms down. And I began to think about, I've got to put this thing back together, and I've got to deal with all that oil spraying as I adjust all these valves. There's a lot of work to what I've got into. But I thought, if I'm going to drive my truck and I'm going to use it to the benefit that I need it to be, then the problem has to be fixed. And I thought, if we're going to be able to have God to depend on us like He wants to, Brother Bill, I thought we've got to fix the problem. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I thought, one of the problems that I had was I had bad miss. And I thought, one thing that we don't need to be doing. We don't need to be missing. I thought if an engine is missing, then there is an apparent problem. Like I said, some of them older vehicles, if you had a bad miss, a lot of times you put a new set of points in it, and put a new rotor button, and put a new set of plug wires on it, and and new spark plugs, and most times you get rid of the miss. But I thought there's so much. The first time I read it, well, it's a crank sensor. And the throttle position sensor. I put those on there and the light stayed out and I was so happy. And I thought that Band-Aid that I'd put on those head gaskets was going to take care of the problem. I thought, but it didn't take care of the problem. You know, when I bought the truck, the guy told Brother Steve, and those 350 Chevrolets are notorious for intake gaskets leaking. And he told Brother Steve, he said, listen, I fixed this for this guy, and I'm trying to sell it to get my money back and get him a little bit of money. And he said, the problem that is notorious in these vehicles, the head gaskets, I done took care of that. And so Brother Steve told me, he done fixed the head gaskets. I looked at it, and I sort of doubted him whenever I started coming up with the problem. But when I tore into it, I knew that he had been there. I could see the evidence that he had fixed the problem down so far. And a lot of times we'll do that, Brother Steve. We'll look at it and we'll go down so far and we'll fix the problem. And with technology that we got now, don't fall out with me. But I got my phone out, my computer one, I don't know which one, I Googled it, and the symptoms, and it brought up on a YouTube, and it said, well, most of the time this is the intake, and this guy came on there and he said, but if I've got a vehicle with over 100,000 miles and I went through all the trouble to take it down to the intake, then I'm going to go and spend the extra hour and a half each way, and I'm going to take it on down and put new head gaskets on it, because what caused that problem is going to seep on down and cause a problem later. And I thought, but so many times we just want to go to this certain level, but we don't want to take care of it all. Yes, sir. Yes. And I thought if we, I'm talking about a car missing, but I'm talking about us missing. And I thought if we have a problem and we have lost our desire to be in the house of God, and I thought we could find things that is just so easy. Sometimes used to things that there's no way that we miss the house of God on for. Now it's so easy to lay out for. We've got a missing problem. We're going to have to dig in and we're going to have to find the problem. Yes, sir. I remember my wife's grandmother, Mama Jane. Some of you remember. A lot of you probably don't. But we all thought the world of her. But she came here to church, and she was coming here to church before Sister Kathy and I even met. And she was coming to church. And on Sunday, Ma Jane's the kind of person that Christmas at Ma Jane's didn't consist of a bunch of presents. It was just a bunch of good cooking and family fellowship. That's all they had for Christmas. She didn't go all without all the fancy stuff. But every Sunday she fixed dinner. And most of the kids knew that she came in, but there was her one son and his wife. A lot of times they would come in late. And if Jackie and Betty came in late and the kids, then Ma Jane would miss church on Sunday evening, and she'd stay there with Jackie and Betty. And but there was a time when Ma Jane got stricken down with Lou Gehrig's disease, and she knew that her visits to church were short and few. And I thought whenever the family came in and it came time for church, she knew that that her opportunity to be in the house of God weren't going to be much longer. And I thought there was times whenever she was to, we'd go over there and she'd say, no, I can't go tonight. I've got company. The company would be there, and she'd crawl in the car and we'd bring her to the house of God. The last night that we went to pick her up, we had to literally pick her up and put her in the car. And we got her out here to the church, and we had to literally help just about pack her into the church. And we put her back in the car that night, and she began to cry. And I believe she was trying to talk to Brother Sparks. It got in her mouth. She couldn't talk good. But she began to cry because she knew that all those times, whenever she should have been there, and she allowed those things to cause her to miss. And now that life was swiftly leaving her, and her strength had failed her, and she looked and she realized, this is the last chance that I'll probably ever get to be in the house of God. And she began to cherish that moment. And we need to come to the house of God with a desire to be in the house of God, like it's our last chance, like it's the last time we'll ever get to offer God praise and worship. And when we get down to the source of our problems, we enjoy being in the house of God once again. I don't want to lose my desire. I thought, there's a lot of times that we do things. Like I said the other night, sometimes we go to work and we work, and whenever that vacation time is rolling around, and that we're just so excited. Yeah, it's just a week, but although we're so excited to have that week to get away and rest for a while. I thought my maintenance man has went on vacation. He left that Friday. And he told me, I believe it was last Friday, he said, now Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, I'm going to get in here and I'm going to tear it up and I'm going to get some things fixed because Thursday and Friday I've got to rest because I've got to drive all the way to Florida Friday. He was just joking with me. But I thought the thing was, he said, I'm anticipating my vacation. I'm anticipating getting away for a while. And I thought sometimes we look at the house of God as a grudgery. And I thought, but whenever I go on vacation, I try to work it around where I can be in the house of God as much as I possibly can because I have a desire to be here. And I thought, but when we have a desire to put other things before God, we've got a missing problem. And I thought, our check engine light's on, and we need to find the problem. I thought another thing, and I've had some vehicles to do it, is irregular throttle response. And some of these newer ones is worse. Toyota had a big recall here a while back. Some of their throttles are sticking. Pull out in the middle of an intersection, throw the gas to it, the throttle wouldn't even work. All that electronic junk in them. And I thought, that's a problem we better get fixed, or we will get run over.
That's right.
I thought I had no 67 Chevrolet truck, and it just had I had a 4-barrel carburetor on it. Had a 2-barrel, and that wasn't enough for me. I had to put a 4-barrel on it and flood it to death. But I thought I went over to Evans one day, and whenever they was on Big Hill Avenue, and I had that throttle stuck. That cable, it didn't have a cable. It had the throttle rod. It was a good one. And but I thought I'd lost a little keeper off the end of it and put a piece of aluminum wire around it, trying to hold that thing in there. And traffic coming down Big Hill Avenue, and I let off the clutch of that thing, throw the gas to it, and the throttle rod fell out. There I sat in the middle of an intersection, traffic coming every which way. I thought, bad throttle response will get you ran over, Brother Jim. I thought I pulled back in there and finally got it back over, and Danny Morrow was working in there. I was up there seeing, and I went out and said, man, that thing back got me ran over. And we took that out and got us a drill, and I think I took it to Brother Jimmy's. And he drilled me a hole through there so I could put me a Carter key in it to slow down, to keep from having a slow throttle response. And I thought I like to be able to depend on that throttle. I like to be able to, if I'm merging, I want to be able to get on in there and get with the flow. And I thought a lot of times we come to the house of God, and I thought sometimes we're up here and we're ready to just throw the coal to it, Brother Jonathan, and ready to get into service, ready to push, ready to get things rolling. And then the next time, our throttle's stuck. We push, but I think we're pushing the wrong thing. We've got it hooked up to the braking system. I thought we just can't seem to get rolling. And I thought, whatever it is that's causing us a problem, I thought we need to get our engine serviced soon. I thought because the Lord's coming back. There's a lot of things that's going on around the world today. A lot of things going on in our community today. And we're blaming on this, and we're blaming on that. But the problem really relies on the church. Whenever you go to somebody and you try to get them to come to the house of God, and Brother Bill Houston mentioned last week, and they don't want to come to church because they've already got enough problems, because all they've ever heard about the church is the problems, and somebody's got a check engine light on, and they need to get their problems fixed. I thought there's so much, and I thought whenever we can have to go, and Brother David said that, telling us this morning, we was in Sunday school, we began to talk, and You had to go to a holiness camp, a youth camp, and you had to preach against homosexuality and all those things. I thought, why? Because somebody has been ignoring their service engine sunlight. And I thought, when we have young people that can sit, I don't think we have now, but we've had young people in our congregation that would tell their Sunday school teachers, I really don't see nothing wrong with homosexuality. The problem was mom and dad kept ignoring their check engine light. And they kept letting those things go. And I thought then it affected the whole family. And I thought, if you keep letting the problem go, I thought I could have said, well, it's not leaking that bad. And it's not getting into my oil. It's all burning off the pistons and it's getting out the back. I'm just going to keep adding a little antifreeze along. And I'm going to keep driving. But the problem is I'm going to go on vacation or something. And I took that little 19-foot camper up behind it. I'd head down the interstate. And that thing would get hot. And then I'd have antifreeze in my oil. And then I'd start spinning some rods and some main bearings because I'd burnt the whole engine. And I thought, when we start allowing things to just sit there, and we began to ignore them, I thought we'll see things start falling apart. I thought, where I work, my boss is the world's worst. If you say, well, my check engine light's on. I drive a company car, and so my service engine light's on. There ain't a car out here that the service engine light ain't on. And I thought, we'll fix the problem. And I thought, but so many times, when I say, but this one's got that problem, and that one's got that problem. And I thought, we need to all get our problems under the blood. And I thought, fix the problems that's affecting us. I thought, Sister Kathy and I got out here a little early, and we prayed. And I thought, it's my desire to see the power of God fall in this place like a fog.
Yes, sir. Yes.
I thought, it's my desire. Sister Donna come tonight, and I feel like that we got some prayer through. But I thought, I don't want Sister Donna just to feel better. I want Sister Donna healed.
Yes.
Sister Michelle just got out of the hospital this morning. And with her expecting and things, it's not easy just going and start cutting things out of a woman, her expecting child. There's a few complications there. She needs God to touch her. And I thought, but when we've got all these problems that's clouding our mind, we can't get through to the throne room to get help for those that are needing help. Not just the sick, but those that are dying lost. Those that we are desiring to see in the house of God. And the thing is, as long as they're out in the world and they're messing with the world, they just keep getting deeper and deeper and deeper in sin. And I thought, sin is rampant. I mean, it's flowing through at a rampant pace. And I thought, it's time for somebody to do a diagnostic check and say, Lord, search me. You know everything about me. You created me. And you know where the problem lays. I thought, when we do, He'll take care of the problems. They come get us a song tonight. I hope I've helped you. Like I said, I know it's our elementary preaching. And you said, well, you worked on your truck this week. But I thought, I've been praying for the Lord to help us. And I thought, as I was working yesterday, and Sister Kathy took several pictures. I didn't know she was doing it. And I was laying all over the radiator support, under the hood, and on the fenders, everything else, trying to get all that done. But I thought the problem will be fixed whenever, and if I ever get it put back together again. And I thought, but if I wanted to use it, then I have to fix the problem. And if we want God to use us, we want to be effective for God, we've got to fix the problems. As they come and get us a song, now let's pray.